Day 3. I am so excited that you're here. I am so excited that you have spent the last 2 days with me. And that, there's so much that we can continue to learn, and that this is a process, right? Progress over perfection. And I'm excited because 3 days, I can't do much, right? It takes a long time to eat an elephant, and we just want to bite it one bite at a time, right? We want to eat it one bite at a time. And so with that, remember when you're in the membership, and if for whatever reason you don't have that, let me actually pop this link in the chat. If you don't have the membership, let me just pop that in here. All of all the sales to everything that is going on right now is in this link. So let me just pop that in there. Good. All right. Now, because you're in the membership, this is just phase 1. Remember, and then there's more phases coming at you. So I just want to show you, you'll log in, right? And then you'll be able to access your library, and you'll go into the membership, and that's where the recordings are if you missed a day. So we'll log all the way down to where there's the pink little membership right here. Because I spent yesterday kind of walking you through that, I'm not going to walk you through that today. I want to walk you through the community. I said yesterday I would do this, and I did after the recording of the call. So I want to just make sure that it's recorded so you can see what the community is, how to access any of the videos that are there. And inside the community, again, it's just like a Facebook group, but not on Facebook. So you have your feed. So you can, check your feed, see what everyone's been writing, ask any questions. You can do that also in the open chat, ask any questions in open chat right there. And you can attend any of the meetups. So all of the future meetups within the community will be right here. And instead of like our cooking class from yesterday, it's right there, and our book club meeting, and our last mindset on the importance of play, all of that is right here, which you can watch all the recordings. But next time for a group call, you'll go here, meetups tab, join the live room. The nice thing about doing that is it's automatically saved, and then we have one place where you can view all of the previous calls. So I think that's so important for you to just be able to see where that is, and you can sign up to make sure you get an email reminder, which is so nice. And anytime I do hop into the live room, you'll also get a notification. So sometimes on Saturday mornings when I teach my live Pilates classes and you get a notification, don't feel like you have to join, but just know like, okay, there's a new class in there that is available for me to watch. So this is where you write your daily gains and goals, right? So in your accountability pod, if you're not an accountability pod, make sure to write in the open chat, can you please put me in an accountability pod? Ashley is our admin on here. And so she'll be the one that puts you in the pods. She organizes them as people leave and as people come. We want to make sure that we kind of try and keep a consistent group, but sometimes you're put into another group if one pod is kind of dying off. So it's great because this is where you're writing your gains. What were your gains of the 3 days? What were your goals? Remember, you are going to be on your phone before bed anyway. 90% of you are most likely going to be on your phone before bed anyway. So let's make that the most, useful time of the day instead of the wasted time of the day. And that gives your brain ability to think about what's going on the next day. Now, here's the trick to success. No matter what you start or what you do, if you can get excited about the next day, right? If you can get excited about what's coming up, that is the trick to success. And so make sure that you really take the time to do that, right? To get to think about what you're doing the next day, get super excited and see what else is going on. Okay. Now, I just had a question on call-in number. So let me quickly see if I can put that in there. Really quick, where is my Zoom? Let's see if I can pull that up. Okay, so let me stop that share for a hot second. You can try. Sometimes I've been on a call where I've been muted. Okay, so let me get that call-in number and then we'll be able to move on. Okay, so as far as that, any questions so far between day 1 and day 2, while I'm grabbing this number, any questions that I can answer, any takeaways? I love that one of the takeaways was I need to love myself more, right? That is a huge takeaway, that if you're going to have success, that you want to be able to do it from you know, from that place of love more than anything. So, okay, here's the copy invitation. There we go. Let's see if this will work to put this in the chat. Okay, let me put that in there and then we will go from there. Nope, it's too long. Really quick. Okay. All right, let's go back. Let me share my screen again. Okay. All right. So with that, let me hit that share screen and we'll keep going. Let's go ahead and start our presentation for day one. So if you have any questions about the community itself, let me know and we'll go from there. But let's just quickly review what we learned for day one, and then we'll quickly review day two and we'll go on to day three. So in day one, you learned how trans fat, saturated fat, and cholesterol play a role in heart disease, how they play a role in weight loss, how they play a role in cancer. And just to give you an example, because it's one thing to talk about it, it's another thing to actually see the difference in these foods. That was the most frustrating thing when we were told to follow a heart healthy diet by the doctor, is it's not like they said, well, these foods have more of these things and these foods don't. They don't tell you the foods. They just tell you the aspects of the foods and you have to figure it out yourself. And it feels like a foreign language to really understand. But just to put it into context, this is just 1 tablespoon of butter. Okay, so 1 tablespoon of butter versus 1 tablespoon of avocados. Now, think about you're about to make toast in the morning. You're going to make toast with breakfast. Should you add butter on top or avocados? They are both fat. And I want you to recognize that it's important to have fat. You know, you do need to have some fat in your diet, not a ton, but some, so that you can be able to absorb a lot of the nutrients that are fat soluble in the foods that you're eating. So if you're going to choose a fat, should you choose butter or avocados? Well, let's look at the details. So I'm going to start actually below at trans fat. So trans fat, remember, is the #1 thing that affects the birth of plaque inside your arteries, because it can increase your cholesterol, your LDL cholesterol, more than anything else in food, found in food. So trans fat in avocados is going to be 0. The amount of trans fat found in butter in 1 tablespoon is 0.5 grams. Okay, so already you're at 0.5 grams. Now, saturated fat is the second thing that we were talking about. Saturated fat is going to influence your LDL cholesterol, and so it's important to watch that. Now, the amount of saturated fat in butter, 1 tablespoon, 7 grams. And this is why eating things like cookies and other sweet treats that are made with a lot of butter actually matters. The amount of saturated fat in avocados in 1 tablespoon is 0.2 grams. So not just, you know, compared to 7 grams, it's 0.2 grams. So it's a significantly smaller amount. Cholesterol in butter is going to be 31 milligrams. Cholesterol in avocados, 0. Do you see now why this matters? Why, depending on which type of fat you're choosing, it makes a difference. We haven't even gone into calories. Food is not just calories. Even if they were equal in calories, you can see why one would be superior over the other. I'd even write down fiber. There's 0 fiber in butter, and there's going to be a lot more fiber in avocados, and we need more fiber. I could write a whole huge list on this, but calories in general. So in 1 tablespoon of butter is going to be over 100 calories, where 1 tablespoon of avocados is just 23 calories. So you see why it makes a big difference choosing avocado toast over just the typical toast with butter. And I just wanted you to be able to catch a visual of that and why these little tiny swaps over time make a big difference. So I don't want you to feel super overwhelmed. Even if all you did was from here on out and you just stopped buying butter and you decided to use avocados for most of the things that you use butter for, which you can easily swap, honestly, a lot of the time. And if you just did that one thing, it makes a big difference. Now, Day 2, we talked about the gap and the gain, and we talked about how important it is to find those 3 daily wins. That when you are in that positive momentum, when you're measuring yourself backwards instead of measuring yourself forward, that you are more likely to succeed. I love this quote that happiness is the way, not the destination. That you find happiness now. Happiness is the way to get to where you want. Finding happiness, finding a way to be proud of yourself and your gains. That's the way to get to where you want. Happiness is not the destination once you get there. Happiness is the way, not the destination. So when you take those 2 minutes every day to look back at how far you've come and be proud of yourself and be happy, it keeps that momentum going. It keeps your confidence going, because confidence just comes from consistent action. That's all it is. Consistent action creates confidence. So if you can just keep going day after day, but you need that momentum, and how you get that momentum is be able to notice your gains and be proud of your gains, how far you've been able to come. And then in order to continue the excitement for the next day and to want to keep going forward, it's important to think about our goals and to get excited about those goals. What is it about tomorrow that you can get excited about? What is it about, plant-based eating that you can do tomorrow to really make you excited to keep going forward? Can you make a new recipe that excites you? Can you try something new? Can you go to a new restaurant? What can you do to keep that excitement? Because when you have that excitement, you will have momentum. So that's what we talked about yesterday. And remember, this is not just a to-do list, but this is the results. We're result focused and it's very small. These are not huge goals. Remember that when performance is measured, performance improves. When performance is measured and reported back, the rate of improvement accelerates. So while you're in this membership for a month, or if you've committed to me for a year, which I hope you did, then I want you to promise yourself that you will write down your daily gains and goals inside that community. And even if you aren't one to share, still write down your daily gains and goals within your own journal, because even if it's measured, it improves. I'm just helping you accelerate faster when you're reporting it to someone. Okay. So the number 1 secret to success is to celebrate every win. It's huge. If you feel like you have been losing the same 10 pounds over and over again, it's really important for you to not just be like, oh, I lost the 10 pounds again. I want you to celebrate it. I want you to celebrate the fact that if you were to carry a 10-pound weight throughout the whole day, how annoying and tired you would be at the end of the day because you've been carrying 10 pounds around. That's huge. So celebrate that. Celebrate it. Even if you've done it again and again, celebrate all those other things. What about heartburn? Do you feel heartburn anymore? Do you still feel aches and pains? Can you celebrate that? Can you celebrate how food is feeling in your body? Do you feel lighter? You feel good? It just feels good. Can you celebrate every single pound that you lose, or 0.5 of a pound? Celebrate it. Celebrate, the fact that truthfully, obese people don't celebrate their weight loss because they feel like it's a never-ending battle. They feel like they'll never necessarily win, and it's not worth celebrating. And so it's important for you to shift that and celebrate. And, are you now making different decisions with your food choices? So even if weight loss isn't a goal, I want you to be able to look down at your plate and be like, wow, in the past, like that I wasn't doing this. In fact, if you are not embarrassed of your past self in some way, then it means you're not growing enough. So I want you to be able to look down at your plate and recognize how far you've come because of all of the fruits and vegetables you're now eating that maybe you weren't eating before. And I just want to remind you about our VIP. If you wanted to be able to join the VIP, if you wanted weekly calls, if you want me to hold your hand through this whole experience, I would love to give you that support. And it's a huge amount of value. But today, just until the end of July, so this sale ends Monday night, right? The end of July, and it's just $997, and it's almost a $10,000 value. But the signature course, if you want to be able to watch all the material on your own and learn how to dive deeper into the microbiome, how to ease off of dairy, have more energy, lose weight, improve your athletic performance, what you should feed your children, intuitive eating, mindful eating, emotionally eating, we go deep into all those details, then you can watch the course on your own and commit to yourself that you'll spend at least an hour a week watching it over the next 6 months. And this matters because just having this information information, again, those mirror neurons, to be able to continually be reminded that this is the path and this is the way. That yes, you got on the right bus, and you trust the driver, and you can have faith in yourself. Because remember, if you can have faith in the process, if you can have faith in the program, if you can have faith in yourself, then you'll be able to move forward. But I also want you to be able to have hope. And that's where the next aspect comes into play. So you want to be able to be a part of this membership, because being a part of a membership and being inspired by other people and seeing, what can happen, it helps you have hope. In the book, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, he mentioned that people who were in the concentration camps, who were dying off, they lost hope. They felt like, oh, the war is going to be over by Christmas and I'll be able to be home by Christmas. And when that didn't happen, they lost hope and they died. It was just like that. That if you can at least hang on to a little bit of hope, that hope is powerful. And what helps you have more hope is seeing other people do this and having other people encourage you, because faith is having faith in the process of looking back, right? Hope is having faith looking forward. Faith is like, I know that the sun will rise because it's risen every single day. And so I don't question it. And, maybe you don't have to question where, a lot of other people that have done well on a plant-based diet, but hope is really continuing to believe that you can do this. And you need a cheerleader by your side. You need a team. You need people cheering you on constantly. And that is done in our monthly calls, in our master classes, right? In all of the things that in our accountability pods, all these things that are available to you inside of a membership. And I would also suggest that, the third part of it was faith, hope, and then charity, is that you, number one, have love for yourself, because if you don't love yourself, you can't love anyone else. And if you can't feel that love within yourself, it's really difficult to give love to someone else. But once you have reached that point and that you have love for yourself, I want you to share the love within the community to help other people feel loved, to help other people, feel that they're part of something bigger. And so to be active inside of this community. So for all of you who've joined the VIP or the course, it's like we got married for a year. And when you marry someone, at least when I married to my husband, I wasn't, getting married and thinking, okay, how soon can I get out of this? Or if the first bump in the road wasn't great, I wasn't like, I'm out, right? I was willing to go through a lot of the hard together. And I recognize that there's always going to be these peaks and these valleys. And it matters how you act in those peaks, because that determines your valley, and how you act in your valley determines your peak. And so when you're willing to kind of go on this road with someone else, then you can get through the peaks and the valleys. You can get the support in the valley so that you can have a higher peak. And when you're on your peak, you're not just complacent. And in fact, you're supporting and helping other people, which helps you go from peak to peak to peak instead of going back down to a valley. And so you've committed to be involved for a year, and I want you to stay committed. And that's the benefit of actually buying a program, is like it forces you to commit, and it helps you have better results because you've committed to a year. And it's just like, if I were to never commit to marrying my spouse, then when things got hard, when we had more kids, like we could have easily left and jumped off the boat. But I'm so glad I stayed committed. And so that's why I'm asking you is to commit to this program for a year. See what will happen in a year. If you commit, you're not going to quit. Whereas if you're like, oh, I'll wait, I'll see, you're much more likely to quit. And I want you to be able to see success. I want you to have the most success possible, which is why I'm offering all of these things to you. Okay. So if you have to want it, like, first of all, you have to want any of this. You can't just be like, okay, yeah, I'm here, this is great, but you have to really want what I'm teaching. You have to want weight loss. What do you really want? I asked you that first day, what do you really want? How do you want your days to look like? How do you want to live? How much weight do you want to lose? How do you want to feel? What do you really want? You have to want it. Okay. And then number two, like I said, you have to set goals that excite you and that are easily attained. Like if I was learning to shoot a gun, I want to make sure that the target is close by instead of super far away. because when it's close by and I make the target, I get excited and that helps you. And then you can take a step back and shoot again and you get excited. So set goals that are easily attained and that excite you. And then third, be willing to let go. These are the keys to your success in this program. You have to want it. You have to be excited, and you have to be willing to let go when things don't turn out as planned. You're going on this journey and you cannot expect it to be a straight road from point A to point B. Like I said, there's always peaks and valleys. So when you're in a valley, be willing to let go and think, okay, what is it that I need to learn? Because we in this life are going to be continuing to learn over and over the same lessons until they're learned. And for most of us, the lessons are as simple as loving yourself. It's the simplest lesson, but if you can't learn it now, you're going to be forced to learn it over and over and over again. That's why that's the foundation of what I teach, is finding that love and compassion for yourself. That's lesson 1. That's the beginning, right? And then just be able to have patience and let go of the outcome. And the second thing that we often have to learn is surrender. And we have to be willing to surrender our control over everything. Like Viktor Frankl said in the book Man's Search for Meaning, that those who did live through the concentration camps, those who were willing to surrender. They kept their will, but they surrendered control over every situation. They kept their hope, right? They didn't lose hope, even though it looked like nothing was ever going to change and this was the rest of their life. They kept their hope, but they surrendered to what was going on around them and were willing to do what was asked. And not that that was a great situation, but sometimes if we have that ability to keep our hope, but to also surrender to our circumstances sometimes, then we'll be able to move forward, because that's a key lesson that we need to learn. Now, what is the biggest secret keeping you stuck? And in my opinion, it's the health lie. And there's multiple lies that we'll go over, but here are some of the lies that you may have heard. And they are that you have to have time and money to be healthy. Is that really true? Do you really have to have time and money to be healthy? Eating healthy is expensive. You're right. It can be expensive when you are eating a typical high protein diet, like the world teaches you this is how you're healthy, then it's going to be expensive. That is no doubt true, because meat and dairy, right? And sugary treats, usually you're not going to be buying those sugary treats, but just meat in general, if you're eating that high protein diet, it's going to cost more. But you know what is actually really cheap? Beans. Beans are seriously so inexpensive. Fruits and vegetables may feel expensive when you're buying more of them, but when you're buying less cheese, you're actually saving a lot of money. Remember the study that I told you about, the Journal of Hunger and Environmental Nutrition, where they found that vegetarians spend on average $750 less on food per person per year than their meat eating counterparts. So you can save so much money if you decide to stop buying as much meat. Now, what about this lie? Well, no one else in my family wants to eat like this, right? It's a really hard one, because it's one that many of you will face if you're not already facing this now. I always tell you it's important to focus on yourself first. Just like in that airplane that you hear before you start for takeoff, that you need to put on your mask first, and then you can adjust to others. I don't want you to be doing this because you want your spouse to be eating this way, unless you're willing to work on you first and you're willing to do it, because your example will speak louder than your words. But don't worry about perfection. So if for a while you have to cook, say, I always tell people, don't cook 2 meals. Do not cook 2 meals, but cook your meal. So say you're doing like something that your kids probably wouldn't eat or your spouse wouldn't eat, which is like an orange tofu, right? So that they're like, if they don't do tofu, well, you could easily grill up some chicken on the side and you both use the same sauce, the same vegetables, the same rice. Okay, so you can make something to the side, and that makes it as simple as possible. But just by replacing 3%. So I want you to screenshot this, save this, write it down, put it anywhere where you can see this often. Just by replacing 3% of your total dietary energy intake from animal protein. So you're taking out 3% of the animal protein that you were using, and you replace it with an equal amount of plant protein. So 3% amount animal protein, and you're giving them, so instead of cooking tacos with just ground turkey, you're doing half beans, black beans, half ground turkey. So you're just replacing some of it. You're taking out a portion of it, right? That just by doing that, you are 10% less likely to die from any cause. That is huge. And what a gift you can give your family. What a gift you can give your spouse. What a gift you can give your roommates. What a gift you can give those around you. That literally is like one meal a week. By just doing a meatless Monday, you can help them reduce their chance of dying from any cause by 10%. Holy cow. I'm willing to do that. Like, that's such a gift that you can give others. So they don't have to eat exactly like you, but I want you to remember that even these small changes matter. They make a difference in your life. They make a difference in their life, and it's worth it. Remember how I said we all have peaks and valleys? Well, what you're doing in the peaks determine the valleys. So if things are going pretty good right now and you decided, things are pretty good, but I want to be healthier. I'm not faced with any major, health issue. If you replace 3% of your animal protein with plant protein, that determines your valley. That can determine if you really reduce your risk of cancer. It can reduce your risk of heart disease. What you're doing in those peaks will really make a difference later on. So I don't want you to step away from these 3 days and think, I could never live like that. Because even if you try, even if you do it once a week, you can make a difference. What you do in your peaks determine your valleys. So make that difference now. People always say, eating healthy is time consuming. You're right. It can be. It totally can be, but it doesn't have to be. For example, cooking a potato in the microwave takes about just as long as cooking a prepackaged meal in the microwave. Potatoes are my quick go-to. For lunch, for dinner, they're so easy. In fact, most people are already making a lot of potatoes for that reason, but it's what they're putting on top of the potatoes that may matter. But what I'm saying, you can just choose salsa instead of sour cream. Like, it doesn't have to be something that's time consuming. Open and warm up a can of beans or cook meat. What takes longer? By far, cooking meat. Cooking meat takes so long. And that's what I love about replacing a lot of my meats in my meals with beans is it's faster. I open up a can, I rinse it out, and there we go. Maybe I can add some sauces to it. A lot of chicken that I used to be eating, I use chickpeas now. So a lot of like ground beef, I'll use lentils instead. Like, there's a lot of really similar recipes that you were already making that you can use with beans instead. And grabbing a packaged bar or grabbing an apple. They take the same amount of time. And I always have an apple in my bag, or oranges or whatever. They're just nature's perfect snack, perfectly packaged for you to just grab and go. It's amazing. Why are we buying all these packaged bars? Get a vegetarian sandwich at Subway or get a regular deli sandwich at Subway. Remember, these choices matter. So switching out the meat, deli meat is classified as a group 2 carcinogen by the World Health Organization. Group 1. It's actually a group 1 carcinogen, which means it has been known to cause cancer, especially colon cancer. So swapping out that deli meat, you may not think is a big deal, but over time, especially if you go to Subway a lot, over time, this can make a difference on and minimizing your risk. Now, I will tell you that when you're taking out meat, there's a meat and cheese. That's a lot of calories. So if you are used to going to Subway and getting getting a 6-inch, just half of that foot long, which would fill me up with meat and cheese, I actually have to get a full foot long in order to fill me up with no meat and cheese. So when you're eating more plants, be used to eating more volume because it's less calories than what you're used to eating. So for example, if you're going to have lunch and you think, I'll just have a potato and vegetables, you feel like you're starving all the time and you're hungry all the time. Well, maybe you need 2 potatoes and vegetables. Maybe you need 3 potatoes and even more vegetables. You're going to be eating more in order to make sure that you're satisfied, and don't be afraid to eat more. I want you to also listen to your body and make sure you're not overeating. I'm not telling you that, but listen to your body. If you're feeling hungry, it's because you need to eat more. Eating plants doesn't taste as good. That's fair. I get that. But, I was talking to my friend who I was doing a YouTube video with her, and she was saying how one of her good friends, her mom is going through breast cancer, and it's pretty well known in, most doctors now because of all the evidence. They're telling most breast cancer patients to eat a plant-based diet because just the evidence is so clear that that's beneficial. So their mom is, they were helping her as she was going through it, and the kids were feeding her these meals, and they were shocked at how delicious they were. She's like, I don't know how it is, but all these meals were there were so many flavors and it's so yummy. And I'm like, yeah, it is. We're just sometimes so afraid to change. And we think that, meat and cheese is so delicious, and it is, no question, but so are other foods. And oftentimes cheese and meat mask the flavors of our food because we just throw a bunch of cheese and meat on top, and it's overpowering to all the other flavors that may be going on. In fact, eating plant-based will probably expose you to way more foods and tastes and flavors than you've ever even tried before. When a lot of people are like, I don't know if I could do it, I want them to imagine that I'm literally, we're standing right in front of this door, and they're like, I just don't know if I can open the door. I'm like, I know it feels like you don't want to leave the comfort of the room that you're in right now. But if you open the door, I promise there is an abundance of foods that you are about to fall in love with. There are over 20,000 edible plants in this world, and most of us eat just 20 a year. And I want to show you how many more varieties there are. Even me, like this last year, I fell in love with batatas. They're potatoes. It's like a white sweet potato. Oh my gosh, it's like my most favorite thing ever. I could just eat that for an entire meal and without anything on top because it's so delicious. I'm still discovering new foods, and you will too. And you will fall in love with these new foods if you're just willing to try. And if you don't have the faith in it, then have the faith in other people who have done this before. Like my friend Joelle, where after 3 weeks of eating delicious plant meals, her eczema completely cleared up. And she really thought that eating plant-based would be like eating like a rabbit, but she was shocked. She's like, I had Indian food, Ethiopian food, Nigerian food, all plants, no meat or dairy. And it was delicious, right? And it's just that you're eating more plants. You're not eating like a rabbit. You're not going to be hungry. There's so many things waiting for you. I agree with you, Jennifer, that sometimes the thought of eating meat after you don't eat meat for a while, sometimes the thought of it makes you go, a friend of ours made some chicken for it, and it's just like, I don't know. Like you get to a point where you just are so accustomed to the other flavors. So know that can be in store for you. I promise. Yeah. Decades. Sometimes it takes decades, but you can get there too. So remember, you don't have a food problem. You don't. You just need to channel your focus to how you act, what you're thinking, and how you're connecting. And today we're going to talk about connecting, which is a key component. In fact, I think it's actually the most important component out of all three. It's not as fun to talk about, but if you don't have this, it's really hard to succeed. So who has the most sway over what foods are eaten in the home? So it's pop quiz time. I want you to write in the chat. I want you to guess in America, who has the most sway over what foods are eaten in the home? The mom, the dad, or the children or grandparents? What would you guess? Who has the most sway? Mom, me. Mom. Okay, these are a lot of good guesses. Okay, I'm going to tell you, before I tell you this, I'm going to tell you a statistic. So I want you to guess the answer to this statistic. Who lives longer, a married woman or a single woman? Who tends to live longer, married women or single women? What do the statistics show? Who lives longer, married women or single women? Yeah, married, single. Okay, I'll tell you the answer to both of them. So the answer to who lives longer, married women or single women, the answer is actually single women. Single women tend to live longer than married women. And who has the most sway over what foods are eaten in the home? The primary caregiver. We assume that's a primary caregiver, but it's actually the man, the husband. If there's a man in the home, they have the most sway over what is eaten. Now, it may be different for you and your family. I get that, but I'm just telling you what the average is in America. Most women tend to, we're caregivers. We do, we think of other people first before ourselves, and we serve other people first before ourselves. And a lot of times that means we're eating a diet that men want. And a lot of the times what men want to eat is not at all what is helpful for you or your weight loss goals. So if you're putting your spouse's desires on what they want to eat before yourself, and you're frustrated that you're not losing weight, and you're frustrated that you're having all these health issues, it's time for you to put yourself first. It's time for you to change this, to really take the time to take care of yourself. Because this will help you live longer. This will help you eat a diet that's made for you, for women. And this is why I get so frustrated with a lot of the current, weight loss programs out there, because a lot of the time they're run by men. They want you to work out like a man. They want you to eat like a man, all of this protein, where really women are, we tend to not want overall, like most women don't want to eat that much protein. Most women don't want to really work out super hard in the gym. That's not like our natural tendencies. That's a very masculine approach to weight loss. And we need to really favor more of that feminine approach, which is going to be a lot of thought work and giving ourselves grace and giving ourselves love and being the caregiver that we tend to want to be to other people, but shifting it and start to become the caregiver for ourselves. And so the best approach to weight loss is to come at it at that feminine approach. If you are a woman, then come at it at that feminine approach, and that caregiver, be the caregiver to yourself. You don't need to work out crazy workouts. And I'm not telling you that it works. It totally works. But what is easier? Let's work, with the current instead of against it. Women also often defer to what the male will want to eat most of the time. So I want you to start to defer to what you should be eating, and then make something for them on the side. Don't make it overwhelming. Or same with the kids. Like, if you're following the emotional eating weight loss challenge, it's probably going to be really hard if you are a mom with 6 children. Trust me, I know, because your kids are not going to want to eat that same things. It's going to be difficult. But maybe, make what you're making for you, and then make something else on the side for them. Make it as easy as possible. And no, especially with the emotional eating challenge, it's just 2 weeks. So I know you're eating the same thing over and over. And maybe if you can meal prep before or do certain things to set you up for success, that will make it a lot easier. It is very difficult for women to lose weight when we are putting the needs of everyone else before ourselves. So it's time to just shift that, right? Okay, so tendencies to manage other people's expectations. A lot of the time when we do start to put ourselves first, we don't communicate very well, and we may just blow up and get mad and frustrated. Like if my husband goes grocery shopping, and he brought home a lot of things that I don't want in my home, I could easily get mad at him, or I could just blame it on communication. That maybe before he left, I could nicely, kindly say, hey, if you're going to buy something that's not what I'm trying to eat, can you, maybe store it somewhere else so I don't see it and I'm not tempted. I really want to do this for my health. I really want to feel better. Like that comes from love instead of anger. So I want you to, instead of just conforming to other people's expectations, I want you to be able to set boundaries, communicate. Every problem can always can always go back to communication. So openly communicate your needs, your values, your expectations. And, how does what food others in your home want play a role in what you're eating? It plays a huge role. It plays a huge role. And so recognize that and plan your meals in detail in advance. This is also helpful when you're writing down your goals and your gains, that you can write down your gains. And maybe when you write down your goals, write down exactly what you plan on eating the next day. It is so helpful if you plan it out in advance. I'm not a big planner, but even when I do this, my day goes by so much easier. And for me, I can't think 7 days in advance, but I can think about tomorrow. And I know if before I go to bed, I think, okay, I think I'm going to do this and this and this for dinner, then the next day is so much better and is so much easier for me to stick with my goals. And it's okay if you schedule in those higher calorie foods. If a birthday's coming up, if you know you're going to go out to get a treat with a friend, it's okay if you schedule that. What I don't want you to be doing is impulsive eating. Like, oh, your spouse brings home a treat that looks really good, you want to eat it. I want you to really try and stop impulsive decisions and choose times where you can still treat yourself, because we're meant to enjoy food. I don't want you to take the joy out of food. I don't want to take away any of your traditions, because our culture is wrapped around food. So it's okay. have a little bit of built-in flexibility, but I want you to just be able to start to trust your intuition, to make decisions that are empowering and impactful over time. And that's how you can make empowering decisions, is by deciding beforehand. Acknowledge your cravings. What you resist will persist. It is possible to feel an urge or a craving without indulging in the craving. You know what's fascinating? This is what's fascinating. If you had an urge for chocolate and you decided to grab and eat some chocolate, that the benefits of doing that, of succumbing to that craving, only last 3 minutes. That's it. They've done studies. They've shown that the benefits of eating what you're desiring, it's 3 minutes. That's it. That dopamine hit, how you feel good, 3 minutes is all it is. So just tell yourself, just 3 minutes, like, is this 3 minutes of joy going to be worth, what I sacrificing what my higher desires really are? And so if you can really dig deep and ask yourself some of these questions, ask yourself, what am I wanting or needing that I am not getting right now? So ask yourself, what am I wanting or needing that I am not getting right now? So, when you are wanting that chocolate, instead of deciding to eat the chocolate, right? Ask yourself, what am I wanting or needing that I am not getting? So just, start thinking about that. The next question is, all right, let me if this gives me joy, what other joy am I swapping it out for? Ooh. So, if you want chocolate, that's okay. If this gives me joy, what other joy am I swapping it out for? What about the weight loss joy? What about feeling good? That joy? What about, the gains at the end of the day, where you can say, hey, I did it. Like I didn't succumb to every temptation. What joy are you swapping these things out for? And I talked about this the first day, but I love this question that you can ask yourself before, is, if I truly, deeply loved myself, what would I choose? If I truly, deeply loved myself, what would I choose? And sometimes this is choosing a treat. Sometimes you're going to be out with your kids or your grandkids and you want to have a treat. That's okay. You want to make happy memories with them, and that's fine. That there's no problem in that. And but own your choice. I want you to tell yourself, I am choosing to blank, because you have a choice in this situation. I want you to own it. I don't want you to be the victim of your household. Well, my spouse wants to eat this and he doesn't want to eat this way, and my kids won't eat this way. And that is a victim mentality. I can instead tell yourself, I am choosing not to follow through with, even though I feel like I should eat plant-based, I'm choosing not to, because it's just too hard right now. At least you're owning your choice. And then you can become comfortable with that. And that's okay. Like for me, we're not 100% plant-based, because with 6 kids, if they want to have a pizza night, that's okay. I am owning that choice. What I've done instead is there's no pepperoni pizza, because I don't want them to have the pepperoni, which is a processed meat. But in general, that's okay for me occasionally. And a lot of vegans might hate me for it, but for me, I'm like, this is my choice. This is what's right for me in this stage of life. And once my kids are gone, I don't ever need to have pizza in my house ever again. Right? This is just a stage of my life. So be okay with that. And remember, if I truly deeply love myself, what would I choose? And after a good, long, hard day where you worked really hard, maybe pizza for the kids is okay, because that's how you want to show yourself self-love. But asking yourself that first and stopping to think about it makes a big difference. And then it's important to create a supportive environment for your goals. Chef AJ often says, if it's in your house, it's in your mouth. So the easiest thing to do is to not buy it at the grocery store. The hardest decision you will ever make will be at the grocery store. If it's not there, then you don't eat it. If you love chips, if chips are your biggest weakness, let's not buy chips for a while and see what other things you can do. If it's just the crunch that you love, well, maybe cucumbers can satisfy that crunch, or maybe kale chips can satisfy that crunch. If you love chocolate, this is hard for me because I love chocolate. And so sometimes I'll just not buy it. I'm like, I'm just not going to buy it and see what else I eat. And usually I end up eating like a date with a little bit of peanut butter. It's just as sweet. It satisfies my need. And it's a lot less fat, right? So remember, if it's in your house, then you don't have to bring drama around it, right? This is your house. You don't have to bring drama around it. This is not a moral issue. There is no right and wrong here. Don't want you to tell yourself I should do this, but I'm not. No shoulding, right? You are choosing. You are choosing what you're allowing into your house, and don't bring a lot of drama around this. It's unnecessary. Just own your choice and recognize you get to decide. You have control. Okay, own that. Okay, so let's talk about relationships, because food matters. Relationships matter more than food. When my husband had a stroke, we were told to follow a heart healthy diet, and we were given specific guidance. We met with a dietitian, and then we came home, and because people are amazing and so kind and so sweet, they brought us food, and the foods that they were bringing us were a lot of comfort foods that were the opposite of what we should have been eating at that time. And I remember I was like stressing. I was totally stressing out because I was like, we were just told not to eat this, and now we're eating. And I had to take a step back and go, whoa, people matter more than food. This is a sign of love. And I had to practice what's called mental subtraction, where what if no one was giving us food? Then how would it feel? And I would be devastated. I would feel alone. I would feel completely unsupported after just going through this trauma. So yeah, it's way better that people are bringing us comfort food than not even showing up at all. And so remember what matters more in all of this, and really kind of take a second to step back sometimes and take responsibility of your relationships, right? And control how you respond instead of reacting. Remember, you don't always have control over your primary thought, but you always have control over your secondary thought. Like sometimes I didn't have control of freaking out when people were bringing food, like, oh, we were told not to eat this, but I had control over that secondary thought. People matter more than food. I'm so grateful for the love and support they're giving us. So you can choose to connect your thoughts with connection. And when it comes to relationships, your thoughts matter. The best example of this I can give you is the fact that my father passed away over 10 years ago. And we had a really good relationship when he was alive, but it's been fascinating that now that he's passed on, I feel that I almost have a stronger relationship with him. And many of you may feel this too, but I talk to him all the time. I talk to him about my business. I talk to him about, all these things, and I talk to him in my mind, but it's really just my thoughts. That I've been able to strengthen a relationship with someone who's passed on because of my thoughts. So why can't I do that with the thoughts towards my spouse or my kids or other people? If I just change my thoughts, that will help us feel more connected to someone, right? And so again, we can continue to practice that mental subtraction when we're frustrated, when our spouse or our loved ones or our kids want the foods that we don't want to be eating right now. Just think, okay, if they weren't around, I would be devastated. Just take a second to really think about what will bring you more joy in your relationships. And what you see is often your shadow. So sometimes other people doubt your ability to lose weight. They're going to doubt your ability to eat plant-based. They're going to doubt you. And I want you to just take a second and realize that if you spot it, you got it. And a lot of the times what people see, what you see in someone else is usually something that you're having a problem with, number one. Number two, a lot of the time they're just reflecting on what you're projecting. So if you have some doubt in yourself, then they're going to reflect that in the comments that they make. So instead of thinking like, I can't believe they don't believe in me, be like, what is it that they're seeing inside of me that they think that I don't believe enough in myself? That, be so strong, be so sure with your purpose, with your why, that they don't even question it. And if they're still questioning it, instead of getting mad at them, question your own belief and be like, okay, I need to work on myself. And again, if you're frustrated with them, usually it's because they're reflecting something back to you that you're frustrated about in yourself. So just kind of take a second. That a lot of times our relationships are like mirrors, the vice versa, right? Things that trigger, activate us have roots within ourselves. And oftentimes if they're not seeing you being able to do this, it's because you are not practicing the things you need to do. And so it's just something to always keep in mind. And typical ways that we often project ourselves in relationships are going to be negative projections when we're annoyed with someone else, or even positive projections are like comparison or jealousy. And I want you to really think of jealousy as a gift. When you are jealous of someone else and their life and what's going on, it is like a compass in your brain. It's telling you you're jealous because there's something inside of you that knows that you can have that too. or that you need to work on something, or it's that something that you want. When you're jealous of what someone else is doing, if you see someone else going on vacation, think, okay, looks like I, in my deeper soul, want to go on vacation. So how can I make a little mini staycation? Or what can I do to improve my own life? Because jealousy can be a gift. It helps you realize that you want something that's not fulfilled, right? It's an unfulfilled desire. And jealous is just unfulfilled dreams and desires. And those emotions are for you. Your desires work for you. What we want, we want these things for a reason, and look at it as a sign that you need to work towards those desires in some way. So how do you communicate your desires or your wants with others rather than expect or assume that they know, which we all do that, which can create disappointment. So we need to set your relationship up for success. Take responsibility, take total responsibility. So if things don't go well, then it's because you did something wrong. You didn't communicate well, or maybe you should have, set it up better. Think of this like you're the boss in your household. And if the boss, a really good boss, if someone underneath them doesn't finish an assignment, a really good boss will recognize like, oh, I must not have communicated to you exactly what's expected for this assignment. The more clear the expectations are, like when you start a new job, you need to know like what to do and how to do it. And if your boss sets up these very clear expectations, if you have a really good manual to read that tells you exactly what you should be doing and when, then it's really easy for you to succeed because you know what to do. And so it's the same thing. And if you don't succeed, it's because it wasn't expressed to you clearly. And I want you to take that responsibility. If other people in your home are not acting the way that you feel like you need the support that you need, then it's because you didn't communicate it, that you didn't set these things up. Or also remember, it's also really good to compromise. It's not like you get everything you want. Remember that there's a lot of this we have to compromise, and we can't expect just one person to fulfill all of our desires. We may have to hire help. We may have to ask for help from other people. We can't expect our spouse to fulfill all of our desires, or our kids, or our roommates. We can't expect all of them to do everything. So you may have to get help outside of that. And it's important to set up boundaries when you are communicating what you want. When I think of a boundary, I hated the word boundary, because when people would be like, I have boundaries. I always thought like, this is terrible. You're just basically shutting the door in my face. In my mind, that's what a boundary was. It was just shutting the door and I'm not letting you in. But that's not what a boundary is. A boundary is like we all have a huge backyard that our houses, and there's no fence. So sometimes your dogs or your kids or whatever come to my yard, and a boundary is just putting up a fence. But I also include a little door in my fence. And so I'm just saying you can enter, but enter in right here instead of going all over. Because I have flower beds here. And I don't want your dog walking over my flower beds or whatever it is. The boundary is just communicating our needs and showing where the door is. Like you can still come in. A barrier is when we shut the door. That's the difference between a boundary and a barrier. A barrier is when we shut the door, like, sorry, we cut off the relationship. This is not what we want. And what's interesting too, there's internal and external boundaries. So internal is when you establish within your own actions. So you need to set boundaries for yourself. Like, I'm going to go to bed by midnight every night. Make that, like, I know I'll feel better. I'll do better. And instead of scrolling or watching, set that boundary, set your alarm. And then this is the key. So whether it's with yourself or whether it's the external boundaries with someone else, you also have to follow up by saying, like, what are you going to do if someone else doesn't respect your boundaries, or if you don't respect the boundaries you set? So if you said, I'm not going to eat after 8 p.m. at night, and you don't follow through with that, then what are you going to do afterwards? Boundaries aren't just like, here's the door, and this is the only way you can get in. It's what are you going to do when you come in another way again? Like, what will you do? Right? So when you do this, the rest is out of your control. So it's the other person's reaction out of your control. Like, that's okay if your kids are going to be frustrated that you don't have cheese anymore in your house. Like, that's kind of out of your control how they respond. But remember too, that if you have a friend that Every time you would get together, you would eat at a specific restaurant. And if they're not willing to change that for your goals, it's okay if maybe you just need to take a break, right? All relationships don't need to last forever. And so it's okay to strongly desire healing and other help to lose weight. Being overweight is a health issue. And if you think about it, you wouldn't hesitate to ask for help if you were sick, if you had cancer, if you had all those things going on. And I don't want you to hesitate to ask for help with overcoming this significant health issue and being overweight. I want you to ask for help. I want you to ask your family to help you in your desires and in your goal. I want you to communicate it. I want you to set up boundaries. I want you to, set you up for success the best way possible. Because if you don't have a supportive community, it's really hard to be able to keep going forward. And you don't have to go through this path alone. And the reason why it's so important that we have a strong community is because connection matters, right? If you think about it, hunger is a warning that our blood sugar is low, we need to eat. Thirst warns us that we need to drink to avoid dehydration. Pain alerts us to the potential tissue damage in our body. And loneliness tells us that we need a social connection. It is as critical to our well-being as food and water. So when you deny that you're lonely, when you deny and you're like, no, I can do this on my own. It's okay. I'm not going to tell or ask anyone for help. I'm not going to ask for support. I'm just going to do this on my own. It makes no more sense than being like, I'm not going to drink water all day tomorrow, right? Because you need connection. You need support. In fact, out of everything I've talked about, I've told you about how eating plant-based is important. I've told you how it can help minimize your risk of all of these diseases. And then the next day I told you about how having a positive attitude can help you live 10 years longer. Of the nuns that wrote in their journal, positive interactions each day, the positive nuns lived 10 years longer than the other ones. But loneliness has its own connection to health, and it's significant. If you think about it, living with air pollution increases your odds of dying early by 5%, living with obesity by 20%, excessive drinking 30%, and living with loneliness increases your odds of dying early by 45%. 45%. So these single women who are living longer had a great social network, right? Because it's important for us to not be lonely, but to have the great social network. Loneliness is often the background of critical illnesses, right? It contributes to disease, and it makes it really hard for people to cope and to heal. So that's why we need to connect. I do not want you to feel lonely. It is connected with a higher risk of cardiovascular disease, with higher risk of depression, higher risk of dementia, Alzheimer's disease, anxiety, all of these things. So we want to be able to, really reduce our risk of loneliness. And when we think about it, what is loneliness? And there's a lot of different aspects of loneliness, because sometimes we can feel lonely, in an intimate way because we are alone and we don't have that intimate connection. Sometimes we may have that intimate connection. We may have a spouse or be married or have a partner, but we don't have a great social network. We don't have a lot of quality friendships. Sometimes we may have those two things, but we don't feel connected to our community. Or last but not least, our self, that we don't, embody self-worth, that we're not giving ourselves self-compassion. That can also make you feel very lonely. So all of these things need to be strong. They all affect each other. And we could be around a ton of people and still feel completely lonely if we are lacking any of these. For example, when we first went plant-based, I was hosting a bridal shower for a friend, a baby shower. Actually, it was a baby shower. And I was planning it with friends. It was my first event where we were eating this way, and I was hosting it at my house. And I was like, I want to be able to make some plant-based things, and they brought food, and they brought, of course, the typical American yummy, delicious, like ham and cheese sandwiches and, other cookies and things that are totally not plant-based. And as we were all eating, not a lot of people ate what I made because you have to fail at things before you're good at it. And I totally sometimes fail at recipes. It's okay. The best of us do. But I felt so lonely as everyone's talking about, the recipes and wanting to learn more. And I'm like, I'm so weird. I'm so different. Like, even though all of these ladies go to church with me, we're all friends, we've been friends, but I all of a sudden felt so different and alone. And so sometimes we can be in, this circle and around a ton of people, and you feel like, you're alone. And the thing about us is we're primal. Like, we are individuals who grew up in this tribe mentality, because that's how humans, were. And if you weren't in the tribe, if you were cast off from the tribe, it was really hard for you to survive. That we survive being connected to others. And so when we are not connecting with others, we go into this self-preservation mode, and it's really difficult for us to lose weight. It's really difficult for us to reach our goals, right? And it tends to increase our loneliness even more. And a lot of the time our self-esteem gets chipped away, which makes it really hard to love ourselves, which makes it really hard to lose weight. And so when you don't feel like you're likable or lovable because of your actions, then it's really hard for you to be able to continue on with your goals. So how can you work towards making these connections? Number one is understanding your worth and value. And if you have that deep sense of self, then it's okay that you're hanging out with people that are not just like you, because you are so confident in yourself. You're so confident in your decisions. You're so confident in what you're doing in life, and you feel this general purpose. If I were to host a baby shower again, with these in a similar situation, and of course I would provide more delicious plant-based options, like some lemon cashew coconut balls, or some other things that I now found that are fantastic and everyone loves. And if other people brought meals that were not plant-based, I would not, and if they were asking for recipes now, I would not feel alone, because I'm so confident that this is my purpose in my life, that it won't question my value. And you need to get to that point of confidence. But confidence comes from consistently making actions, from consistent actions. Then you gain that confidence. And when you have that confidence, you understand, your purpose, your why, and your worth. And it's important to be grounded in that, and to be able to really pay attention to your higher desires. And when you pay attention to those higher desires and consistently create actions towards those, you will not only have a greater sense of worth and value, but you'll feel more confident. So how do we make connections? It feels like, we're destined to crash and burn sometimes, but we're not. While we may have had a traumatic past, while there have been a lot of difficult things that may have happened to you, while you feel like you have this constant struggle with wanting to lose weight, adversity and this constant struggle with weight doesn't mean that you're destined to always be overweight. I want you to just memorize that in your mind. Just because you've struggled with this for 20 years doesn't mean that this is your forever struggle. You are not destined to crash and burn, right? Adversity doesn't mean that you're destroyed. Your body isn't broken. You can heal from this, and there is a path forward, and you first need to have that hope. Just like, as Viktor Frankl said in those concentration camps, that those who survived had hope, and they didn't have this date that they set that it was like, if we're not freed by Christmas, then then they lose their hope. And I see that happen with people who are like, I'm going to lose 10 pounds by the summer, and when that doesn't happen, they give up. It's the same thing. And so if you can just recognize, okay, it's going to take longer than I thought, but I still have hope. Okay, it's going to take longer than I thought, but I still have hope. And that was Viktor Frankl. That it was definitely longer than what everyone thought, but he still had hope, and he was able to survive. And there is great power in the human connection. That what gave him more hope, Viktor Frankl, is that he served others. He gave much to other people. He realized that he still had his will and ability to show love and connect with others as much as he could in the worst of circumstances. There's so much power in that. So if you can reach out and help someone else, if you can, do something for someone else in some way, and especially within our community, it's a great situation, place to do that, to serve others, to pump other people up. It can heal your deep wounds within yourself. It can heal your trauma. And most of the time we go through things. It's like, why did my husband have to have a stroke at 37 years old? And I think about that all the time. And there was one point in my business when I really have felt called to teach this and to help other people. And there was a certain time where I was trying to sell my courses, and just one person bought. And I was like, oh my gosh, I should just quit. Like, I'm just going to quit, And in that moment, it just like the thought came to me, then his stroke would have been in vain. And so a lot of the times we go through these hard things so that we can help heal other people, so that we can help someone else go through that difficult time. And so I know that, if you realize like you've struggled with weight for years, and if you take this and you're like, I want to be able to have an impact on someone else, I want to be able to serve, I want to be able to give back, then you'll be able to find more success. But you have to have self-compassion. I think I have repeated this a million times. Remember that you have to shed the coats of and the layers of shame. It's interesting. Kristin Neff gave this amazing talk on self-compassion where she compared self-esteem to self-compassion. And she talked about how self-esteem, people of high self-esteem do really well in life. They tend to be successful, but they also have higher rates of depression, higher rates of suicide, all these other things, because self-esteem makes you compare yourself to someone else, right? Self-esteem says, I am doing so good because I'm better than someone else. Whereas self-compassion, on the other end, it has the same benefits of self-esteem. People who have a significant amount of self-compassion are actually more successful. They accomplish more things in life. They do really well, but they don't have the negative side effects. They don't have, they have less risk of depression, less risk of suicide, because they have that self-compassion. So, why not use that for your advantage, right? And help yourself through this and become more vulnerable to yourself and to other people around you. Now, I've talked about the importance of giving back and having this community, and I need to recognize the elephant in the room that some of you are like, look, I get it. Like, this is my mom. She is not like an extrovert. She does not want to be part of some accountability group. She would hate it. She would be like, no, thank you. Not for me. I don't want to be seen, heard, nothing. Right. And that's okay. If your personality doesn't respond well to group help, if you hate group projects, if this is not you, it is okay to still ask for help. And it may just be heavenly help. It is okay to really still want that support and to ask for that support from angels, the universe, from God, right? Whatever it is that you need, ask for heavenly help if you hate, this group work that I've given you that opportunity. But it's key to your success is having that connection. Now, another interesting thing about the blue zones that we talked about in day one, that the people who live the longest, who have the most, centenarians in their communities, are known as the blue zones. They live the longest and the healthiest the healthiest groups of individuals. And yes, they eat a plant-based diet. Yes, they also they don't exercise in like the traditional going to the gym sense, but they're active. They garden, they go for walks, like they're active. But another key component is they all have a supportive community, whether it's a church or whether it's just their close network, that they all have a strong community. And that is a key to their success, the blue zones, right? And they build their life with people that matter and that matter to them. They show up, they give each other grace. And that is key to all of this. Remember, there's a huge social connection to food. It's like food and love and people, like we all get together to eat together. We drop off food at someone else's house to show love. Like there's this huge social connection to food. And it's difficult sometimes if you grew up in a certain culture or a tradition that, to change your diet will make you feel like you don't belong to your community, and it can alter your sense of belonging. And so I want you to be able to find that sweet spot where you can still hang out with your family, do the things, and maybe eat a plant-based version, or maybe even eat with them. But then what you're doing in your home is different. Remember, this is flexible. I'm not telling everyone to be vegan. I'm telling you to find what's right for you, but to try and adjust to eat a lot less meat and dairy for your health, right? And to help you to be able to do that, to lose weight. How we are raised completely shapes our diet. In fact, the biggest impact on food choices that we're choosing now was the preference within our family unit or home. And so a lot of these attitudes were developed by just how we grew up. And remember, it's because of those mirror neurons that we act out what we see other people doing. And so it is hard. It is hard to shift. It is harder to change your diet than it is to change your religion because of all of those mirror neurons. Yeah. Bio-individuality is the key. I love that. I love that. So it's important for us to embrace and join a new community with different goals so that we see other people doing different things, that we allow a variety. again, like I say, when we're eating plant-based, it's like my eyes were open to all of these other cultures that and the foods that they're eating and how amazing, like nutrient rich these foods are. Where before I was just eating like hamburgers, hot dogs, you know, the traditional lasagna, whatever it is. And it is, I do want to pay attention to the you know, some people can't afford to eat this way, really, because convenience foods that are processed, prepackaged, quickly prepared, they're very cost efficient. Not to say that you still can't save a lot of money by just doing rice and beans. You can, you know, it can be cost efficient the other way around as well. But a lot of people in the West, in the westernized countries, that people of color and those who have lower socioeconomic status, that they, you know, tend to be more obese. They tend to struggle more because of all of these processed, prepackaged, quickly prepared, and cost efficient foods. And sadly, it ends up harming these people of color even more so. And it costs Americans $900 billion annually in healthcare costs. So, you know, bringing more attention to this and recognizing what's going on is key. Okay, so this is the last part. I just want to ask all of you to contribute and tell me that when you are looking for convenience foods, when you want to go out to a restaurant or takeout, what is your favorite meal when you go out? So what, or how can you make it more plant-centered? So I actually just did a YouTube video on this, but I went to Applebee's, for example, and I got like their shrimp salad, but I switched out the shrimp for another, for like Beyond Meat, right? And it was amazing. My kids actually loved it. Or I love Red Robin because they have bottomless broccoli, which is great. And they have a really good veggie burger too. Ooh, I love this. Whatever grains they have plus steamed veggies. Oh, that's so perfect. Yes, yes. What else can you eat? What can you order when you go out to eat? I really like to go to Cava is a restaurant. I'll go to Cafe Rio and just do beans with the salad and choose not to have the meat. Some places like Chipotle will reward you for not eating meat. They'll give you avocado for free or guacamole for free. Other people will charge you a lot more. Like if you go to Chili's and you ask for their fajitas, and if you do it without meat, it's still the same price. And yes, it's frustrating, but at least you're still, you can still feel good about your goals. Yes. So those are takeout. Now, what about a Taco Bell? I was going to say this. Taco Bell is also fantastic. You can ask Taco Bell for anything fresco and they'll take out the cheese and add in more tomatoes, which is really cool. Yes, I always ask for avocado. I love that. So no recipe meals. And, you know, what's your favorite quick meal to make at home? How can it be more plant-centered? Microwave potato with a salad. That's so good. Yes, a potato is like my go-to. I always do pasta with like a white sauce, a tofu Alfredo sauce that at this point I've made it so many times that I don't need to, but sometimes you'll try all these recipes and you'll find the good ones and then you'll make them over and over. Frozen veggies. Yes. So sometimes I'll do rice with frozen veggies and just do like a sauce. Ooh, you are advanced, Natalia, to do textured vegetable protein. That's very impressive. But that's also really easy to make. Is once you kind of get to that point, you're like, oh, that's actually really easy to make. And it absorbs any flavor that you put onto it. Salads at Subway cost $2 more. Dang it. I know. I get frustrated too because sometimes like I will go to Wendy's. So Wendy's is awesome. So you can do a baked potato. You can ask for a baked potato with salsa. You can also at Wendy's ask for them to put on tomatoes and lettuce and they'll do it for free, which is really cool. I love that. Beyond Burgers and Fries. And yeah, you can go to so many, like I feel like it's so easy nowadays to eat this way versus 10 years ago. There's so many more options now. Okay, so what are some, I love Japanese sweet potatoes because it's so filling. I love Japanese sweet potatoes so much. Frozen tofu and tempeh, always have that. That's nice. I love to have baked potatoes on hand, white and sweet. Yes, you guys are amazing. Okay, simple snacks. What are some ways that you make your snacks more plant-based? We do hummus and veggies, like all day, every day. If I just put them out on the counter, everyone will eat them. You could, if I want to do something sweet, I'll do like peanut butter and apples. I mean, there's so many simple things that you can do. Baby carrots. Yes. What are some other snacks? When I first switched to eating plant-based, I made a bunch of energy bites made from like dates and And I mean, it's not great for weight loss, but it was really great when I wanted a cookie that I could have that. It was like peanut butter or almond butter, oatmeal, and dates, and I think some maple syrup. And you just put it all in your food processor. So good. And but then over time, I was like, this takes a lot of work. So now I'll just grab a date itself with like a dab of peanut butter, and that will be a treat. Mixed date with oats. Yeah. Yeah. So like make it as simple as possible for you. And sometimes the simplest things are just your fruits and vegetables. So this doesn't have to take a long time. Doesn't have to be super expensive. Remember, it all kind of evens out. So sometimes you may pay a little more or about the same. Sometimes you'll save some money too. But remember, belonging and community are key. Remember, you could learn everything you want about how to eat plant-based, how to lose weight on a plant-based diet. You can learn it all on YouTube. Like what I taught you isn't anything new. But it is key to have someone be able to show you and give you personal feedback. Just like if I wanted to be an elite athlete, I really would need to hire an elite coach. I would need to be part of a community of other athletes where we practice together, we push each other farther, longer, harder. It makes such a big difference. It still takes work, right? But that constant personal feedback is key. And so that's why I really want you to be able to, number one, prioritize plants. That's kind of a review of what we talked about today. I want you to be able to lose weight and live longer by prioritizing plants. So it's not just about losing weight. It's how can we reduce your risk of chronic disease? And if you do that 50-50 plate, that is huge, right? Being able to look at your plate, I'm eating half vegetables and then the other half is starch. Don't let the starchy vegetable, because that's mostly potatoes, but just think starch. Half of it is maybe beans and rice. The other half is vegetables. And then remember, that's only half the battle. The other battle is your mindset. And start with the end in mind, but also measure yourself against how far you've come. Measure yourself backwards. Have that direction, have that purpose, have that why. Start with the end in mind, where you're going and why you're going there and why you're doing this. But only measure your success with how far you've come. And it may be non-scale victories. It may be all the things of how you feel better. And then lastly, I really, really want you to join a community, even if all it is a heavenly community, because you don't like to be a group person. But I want you to try not to do this alone. And I promise you that, if you commit to a year within us, this could be the best year of your life. And you may be able to really have success. But if not, at least if you're in the program for a month, I'm so in, I love it. If you're in at least for a month, remember, we just finished phase 1. So this is the end of the call today of phase 1. And this will be up in your portal tonight. And this is just step 1, where you're just sitting here and learning and thinking about it and gathering all the information. Phase 2 is for you to do the emotional eating reset. It's a 2-week challenge where you will have to plan in advance. You will have to meal prep a little bit. So I want you to at least watch the first video and then see what it takes and decide when you want to do it. Because if you're traveling, that makes it really hard. So try to do it at a time maybe you're not traveling. And that's phase 2. This is where you will learn a ton, because there's a video every day. And you'll learn a ton, but also you're putting things into practice now, and you're being held accountable to put yourself into practice. And it's just really 10 days, about 2 weeks of what we do. It's called the Mary's Mini, and you'll be able to lose a lot of weight. Most people lose between 3 pounds to 16 pounds during this 2 weeks if they follow the meal plan along with it. So this is really helpful. I want you to be able to have a quick win. And while this is not sustainable, this is not what I want you to do for the rest of your life. You could do this quarterly. You could do this maybe even once a month. That I would say tops once a month, no more than that. It helps a lot of people who are in a plateau, and it can just significantly jumpstart your weight loss. And then once you have that moment, you can keep going. But what is sustainable? And that is phase 3. So phase 3, it's if you want to skip the emotional eating challenge, or if you want to do both of them together, every month, the very beginning of the month, so that would be August 1st, that's Tuesday, we're starting the Healthy Living Lifestyle Challenge, where for a month, you are going to follow these 10 things. Now, here's the cool thing about life. Now, if you're a perfectionist, you may have gone to school and you're like, I want to be a straight A student. I want to do all things right. And the sad thing is that's not life. It may have done well for you when you were in school, but for you to be successful in life, you have to be willing to make mistakes. In order for me to learn the Spanish language when I lived in Argentina, I had to be willing to mess up so many times. When I tried to speak perfectly, I never learned. It was really hard for me to learn. So in life, B- effort is how you succeed. And so I want you with this way of eating to just look for a B- effort. So this is how I want you to live day in and day out. And there's going to be these 10 points. So I'll go over them. So number one is only eat complex carbs, no white rice, no white pasta, no white flour. This is the hardest one for me right now because I'm doing this challenge right now. This is the hardest for me because I'm traveling all the time and it's really hard to find things when you're not traveling. But the second point is limit your added sugar to 25 grams a day or less. Get at least 7 hours of sleep every night, or at least be in bed before 11 p.m. Eat at least 5 fruits and vegetables a day, any variation, 8,000 steps a day. So the average American takes 5,000 steps a day, just 5,000 steps. So if you were to exercise for a half an hour, usually for each 10 minutes of exercise, if it's just like a walk, then that's about 1,000 steps. So that's why 8,000 steps would be the ideal, or at least a half hour of exercise. And you do get one rest day a week that you can count. Drink at least 8 measured cups of water a day, no soda, no alcohol, take a vitamin, or spend 15 minutes in the sun every day. And that's because most of us, all of Americans, were deficient in vitamin D, and that really affects our outlook on life. It can affect depression. And so we want you spending at least 15 minutes in the sun. And this monthly challenge starts August 1st. So inside the Kajabi app, or when you log in online, you'll see that as a square. That is the Healthy Living Lifestyle Challenge. Every day you'll need to write your gains and goals, so fun little challenge to do. And no eating after 8 p.m. at night or 3 hours before bed. Read something uplifting or scriptures, or meditate for at least 15 minutes a day. Your goal over 30 days is to at least get 8 out of 10 overall, or 80%. So sometimes I'll send you an email, Natalia. So sometimes you will get a 5, like if you're on vacation. Other times you'll get a 10, but overall, over the 30 days, your goal is to at least get 80%. And it's amazing. All the people who have gone through it this last month, they're like, you think you're doing well, like with sleep, or something as simple as eating, less sugar, or some people even just, not eating after 8 p.m. at night. That's a really hard one. So sometimes you think you're good until you're actually put in a challenge and you realize, okay, I need to work on this. So it's like putting a mirror. Again, it's like having that elite coach say, actually, you need to move your arm to the left when you're swimming, and then you'll be able to go faster. So this is phase 3. If you want to skip phase 2 and go straight into phase 3, starting on Tuesday, then go ahead and sign up inside your portal. If you're in the membership, you have access to this. Okay. All right. So that is everything. Is there any other questions? If you're going to start the emotional eating, should you wait to do the challenge till September? You could actually do both at the same time. If you want to go all in, you could easily do both, because everything in the emotional eating challenge sets you up to follow this. So you could, you're not going to be eating complex carbs. In fact, it's almost easier to do this. So if you wanted to do both, if you're like, I'm going all in, I want to do this, then I would do both. And you'll feel like the first 2 weeks, it'll be rough, but it pairs really well together, because after you do the emotional eating challenge, it's kind of like a rubber band. Sometimes like you're pushing really hard, and then when you kind of let go, you'll fly off the bandwagon, because you're like, oh, I couldn't eat treats for this long, so now I'm going to go overboard. So the nice thing about the Healthy Living Lifestyle Challenge is it would prevent you from yo-yoing, right? From going like all the way from one end to the other spectrum. So they work really well together. So they're in the portal. So let me show you where things are right now. So you'll go into that's not the right thing. We'll just go straight to plantwise.com. Oh, here, I'll put these in here too, just in case anyone else wants to. So you'll go to plantwise.com, or remember, Kajabi app and Kajabi Communities app. So you want those two things. That you can access everything in just the regular Kajabi app. The community app makes it really easy. Just like facebook.com, you could go to facebook.com and be part of your Facebook groups, or you could download the Facebook app. It just makes it easier. So it's the same thing. Okay, so we'll go to library and you'll see, so just, I want you to see, again, I have VIP access, so I get everything. So here's the emotional eating reset. You'll click on that and all of the videos are in there. And then I want to show you the, here is the healthy living lifestyle challenge. So that's what it looks like. So you'll click on this and all of the information, how to sign up and when to do it. I just watched the video. This one's really short. Like this will take you 10 minutes to read because this one's mostly action. So the last 3 days you sat and you learned, right? It was learning. Emotional eating challenge is learning and action. Healthy living lifestyle challenge is just action. It is just putting everything into practice and holding you accountable for it. So those 3 things, that's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. I can't teach you everything in just 3 days. I want to be able to serve you at a higher level. So make sure that if you're not already in the membership that you sign up. And if if you can't commit yourself, commit for a year, sign up, commit to doing this. Just like I committed to my husband to get married, commit to me for a year, and you could be in a totally different place a year from now. If you commit, if you decide like, okay, I'm not going to be wishy-washy. I'm going to get in this car. I'm going to have faith in the process. I'm going to have faith in the program. I'm going to have faith in myself. I'm going to have hope that things will change. Right. And I'm going to have charity. I'm going to come with a lot of compassion for myself, and I'm going to have as much charity for everyone else in the program and show them a ton of love and support. And those who do that find the most success. And so let's not wait for a year from now where you're like, oh, I should have done it. I want you to be able to think, like next year, a year from now, your summer could be totally different. You could be totally different. You could be eating different things. You could be loving different things if you can take action now. So where are the free recipes from last night's lecture? So they were, if you were on the call, iPhone Terry, were you on the call last night? I gave the link on the call. I would have to pull those up, but all right. Any other questions? Okay. So Natalia, yeah, we will, I will send you an email actually, probably tomorrow. You can start scheduling the calls for next week. Where in the portal can we find the recordings of these classes? Let me show you that let me share my screen again so that you guys can see where the classes are really quick. So again, you'll go back to the membership, view product in the membership, and then you'll see day 1, day 2, day 3. So membership. So you have 4 products. So you have membership, you have community, you have emotional eating challenge, and you have healthy living lifestyle challenge. So I know it's overwhelming at first, but you have all of those products. So make sure that you are familiar with that, and we'd love to support you. Yes, you were on last night. Okay, yep, I'll send the link. Yeah, let me grab that really quick. So let me stop sharing and then grab that link. All right, any other questions? Feel free to write that in the chat. I'd love to help you and support you. Other than that, I'll end that recording. Okay, let me see if there's anything else. Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna end the recording. And then feel free to ask any questions that you would like.